have a helper today. You can't really see her, but we match. But one of the biggest worries when it comes to decluttering is that you will get rid of something that you will later regret. There she is. But that might make you procrastinate. It might make you feel stuck. It might make you want to not declutter. Do you mind? So today I want to take some of the stress out of decluttering and share some things that you will never regret getting rid of. Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura and I help you live a simpler, happier, more spacious life. And this is the first time that she has ever actually sat there calmly, because I always watch these other videos and their dogs are just chilling out beside them or strolling around in the background, and I'm like, how? How do you get your dog to do that? Because mine is full of energy. So we're gonna roll with this. Anyway, in a recent video, I talked about things that you should never declutter. I will link that in the description for you, but today I want to flip that. These will be specific things as well as more kind of general considerations. I'll kind of alternate back and forth between them. So let's start with the first. This is something that I held on to for years, thinking that I would definitely use it. And then as time went on, I realized actually, this is not happening and it's making me feel anxious about it. And when I got rid of it, the sense of relief. That was old magazines. For you, it might be newspapers, it might be catalogs, but all those types of things. Could be clippings, it could be recipes that you have torn out of magazines that you have kept. Anything related to that. If you have been keeping something thinking that you will refer back to it or you will read it again, particularly those smaller things like magazines, just get rid of them. It's not going to happen. Trust me, I speak from experience. When I let go of all of the magazines that I had, I just felt like a weight was lifted off me. It was such a huge burden because I was kind of mentally telling myself constantly, you need to read those, you need to read those. And I was feeling bad because I never really wanted to sit down and read them. I never really had the time to sit down and read them, but it was giving me anxiety almost seeing them there constantly. So when I finally decluttered them, not only did it free up a lot of physical space in my home, but it also freed up a huge amount of mental space. I relieved that mental burden of feeling like I had to read them. Because let's face it, if I had wanted to read them, I would have done it pretty much as soon as I got the magazine. So yeah, those all went out and I cancelled my subscription. Bad enough that I had the burden of all the ones I already had. I didn't want to add more burden by keeping more coming in. Let's move on to the next one then, and this is more of a general one, and that is something where it's really about the memory that is attached to the item rather than the actual physical item itself. In that case, you are not going to miss the item if you still have that memory or if you can preserve that memory in another way. For example, you could take a photograph of it, you could write a journal entry about it, or just share the story of what it means to you or that time in your life. You know, relive it, talk to others about it, all of those types of things that will really help to cement the memory and not make you feel as attached to the thing itself. Because again, it's probably not the thing, it's about what the thing represents. Once you can distinguish between those two things, you know, once you can separate them and preserve the memory, you know, the truly important aspect of it, you will never regret getting rid of the physical item. All that was doing was just reminding you, but like I said, if you preserve that memory in some other form, you won't need the thing itself. This is very often the case with sentimental stuff. We keep it because we think, oh, this brings back memories, but really it's the memories that are important and not the thing itself. But if you are struggling with sentimental clutter, then I do have another video on that. It goes through lots of different ways to make it easier to let go of that stuff. So I'm going to link that for you as well. Next up then, and I'm trying not to disturb her because this is miraculous right here, but old boxes from electronics or things that you bought, maybe big bulky things, and you think, oh, this is a good box. I think I will hang on to this. Or if we ever move, I will need this big box. It just never happens. I find it's particularly the case with electronics. You know, you buy a new phone or a new laptop or something and you keep the box, or, you know, a kitchen gadget or something like that, because you think, oh, if I need to return it, I will need the box for that. Actually, that's not the case. You can return something without the box. You know, if it's faulty or something, they will take it back without the box. Oh, she stirs. Hi. Hi. Yeah. Watch now when I stop petting her. How dare I? But realistically, we probably keep those boxes. You probably have a box from a phone that you bought a year or more ago, and same with some other gadget or maybe a TV or something, and you still have the box that it came in, even though it's long past its warranty, even though, you know, the time for returning it has long since passed. You don't need that box anymore. Even if you do move, you will find another box. But yeah, if it's been sitting there for a while, you can go ahead and recycle that. I know as a grown-up you think, oh, this is a great box, because I think that's the true marker of adulthood, isn't it? When finally you look at a box and you think, that's a really good box, I could use that for so many different things, but you never actually do, and then you end up with a stash of boxes. I have a stash of tissue boxes, empty tissue boxes downstairs that I've been meaning to like use for drawer organization and stuff, but haven't. I've used one or two, but I still have a big stash of them. So yeah, those need to go. Another thing that you will never regret decluttering is anything with an overly negative connection to it. Clutter isn't always just about physical stuff. Very often it can be about mental and emotional clutter too, you know, negative thoughts or feelings, something that kind of doesn't contribute in a valuable way to our lives. She's digging in. Okay, you said no, settled? No. Oh. So when you keep the physical item, you are also keeping that mental and emotional burden, like with me and the magazines, and you don't even realize it half the time until you get rid of that item and suddenly you feel that weight has been lifted off your shoulders. Maybe you're carrying guilt or shame, embarrassment, regret. You might feel hurt or angry or even disappointed, and that's what the physical thing is reminding you of on a regular basis. It's taking up physical space, but again, it is taking up that mental and emotional space too. And it doesn't have to be this like deeply negative emotional type of thing, but it might be a kitchen gadget that is just really awkward to clean, and every time you have to take it all apart and clean out all the little bits and bobs and put it all back together, and it's just more hassle than it's worth. You really dread it, you do not look forward to it, and therefore you find that you're not using it as often as you thought you would or as often as you would like to. Sometimes it can even be people in your life. If the thoughts of meeting up with them or seeing them just fills you with not nice feelings, if you kind of tend to avoid their text messages or their calls or something like that, those are all of the types of clutter that have that negative connection to them. There is an overwhelmingly bad feeling attached to them. Those are the things that you will never regret cutting out of your life, because like I said, it frees up so much more than just physical space. Oh, now this next one, I know there are going to be so many people who tell me, no, I can't get rid of these, or my husband will not get rid of these, but it's time to let them go. That is old cords and cables and chargers. If they have been sitting in a box for years unused, it's because you don't have a use for them, or you have something else that works instead. Chances are they might be related to some old electronic device that you have since decluttered, and the cable just kind of gets left there. But trust me, if you get rid of that big tangle, that big jungle of cords that you have, you're not going to miss them. Absolute worst case scenario, you realize down the line that you need some HDMI cable or some, I don't know, some random thing, and you think, oh, but I got rid of the cord or the cable for that. Just go buy a new one or borrow one from someone else. But I would put a lot of money on the fact that you will never actually use that stuff again. If you're still hesitant, I want you to do this for me, okay? Go to the box or wherever you keep all of your cords and cables, pull one out at random and identify it. Tell me what it is and what it goes with, what it's used for, and if you can't, you get rid of it, okay? Deal? Deal. Duplicates next, where you have more than one item, but you always just use the one of them. I think this is the case for a lot of us. We have kind of multiples of certain things, but even if we're not conscious of it, we have a favorite, and we tend to go back and use the same one over and over again. Saucepans is a very good example. I guarantee you you have a favorite saucepan. Actually, I'd also be willing to bet that you have a favorite burner. On your hob, it's the front right one, isn't it? It's the front right one. But for all of those multiples that you have where really you're just using the one item, get rid of all of the excess. You're not going to use it, particularly for things like maybe cosmetics or skincare. Please don't knock over my tripod. Anything like that where you always think to yourself, okay, this will be a backup one. You know, I'll use it if my favorite or the one I'm currently using runs out or breaks or whatever. But if that does happen, you will probably find that instead of using the one you don't like, you will just go out and buy a replacement for the one that you do like. So even if you think you will use it in case of emergency, chances are you won't. Do yourself a favor, let go of the excess. Next is a category that I often struggle with because I love it so much, but that is clothing, but specifically clothing that is just uncomfortable or annoying in some way. Speaking of clothing, she is currently digging around in Sam's clothes that he's left on the floor over there. But you do not need to be itchy all the time. You don't need that tag rash. You don't need to be fussing and pulling at things. If it's just not working for you, let it go. Same goes for shoes. If it is uncomfortable or awkward or frustrating in some way, you're just not going to wear it. It doesn't matter how long you've had it. It doesn't matter how much you otherwise love it. It doesn't matter how much it costs you. If it's uncomfortable, you're not going to put it on your body. I recently decluttered my closet and I took out anything that does not currently fit me because I was finding it was very frustrating in the morning. Going in, choosing something, putting it on, realizing it didn't fit, taking it off, and then I would just hang it back up in my closet because yes, I still loved it. Yes, I think I will probably fit back into it soon now that I have improved my diet and I'm getting a little bit more exercise. But I separated out all of that stuff because I know that for right now, it's just too frustrating. But again, I do have a game plan for that stuff. But if there's something, like I said, that is just not working for you, is really, really uncomfortable on you, or it's just like very tight, very uncomfortable, very itchy, very scratchy, then let go of that. You're not going to regret it because you're not going to wear it again. A mess she has made here after I like purposely dressed this bed just for this video. But anyway, also something you will never regret getting rid of is anything that is damaged, broken beyond repair. Maybe it's water damage, maybe insects got in at it, maybe there's mold on it. You're not going to regret getting rid of that stuff. If you've had it for a while and you haven't yet fixed it, or you haven't brought it to somebody to be mended, or like I said, if it's just beyond that point, it's time to just get rid of it, get it out of your home. Again, relieve that mental burden as well. If you are not willing or able to fix it right now, or to bring it to someone who will, you just don't love it enough. How many items of clothing do you have lying around that just need a button sewn back on, or the hem just needs to be taken up, or, you know, tiny little fixes like that that you just never seem to get around to? Whereas if your favorite item of clothing lost a button, you would immediately sew that button back on. Or if it's something really important to you, you would stop and take the time to fix it. So if something has been sitting around for quite a while and you've done nothing with it, like I did with a coat that I had that I thought that I loved, but for some reason, you know, 6 months later it was still sitting there and I hadn't sewn the button back on, that's a good indication that it really did not mean that much to me. If I can't take 2 minutes out of my day to sew a button back on, it's just not important enough to me. Again, like with some of the other things we discussed in this video, all it's really doing is just creating another to-do item for you that will cause you some anxiety and some stress and some frustration. And it's just going to endlessly sit on that list. If you're not willing or able to fix it right now or to have it fixed, say your goodbyes. Kind of similar to that then, but not quite, is random things that you have set aside for some reason and then just never gone back to. So for example, you may have kind of decluttered a category maybe, and you thought to yourself, I might use these items, I'm really not sure about them, or these clothes, I might fit back into them in a few months. So you kind of box them up and you set them aside for a specific period of time, and then the deadline comes and goes. It could also be unfinished projects like crafts and things that you took up, or hobbies a while ago and you just never got around to finishing them. It could be also toys that you have set aside for your kids, you know, wondering if they would really miss them. If you have not needed that item, you have not seen that item, you have not looked for that item in, we'll say 6 months. You can give yourself whatever time frame you deem is appropriate, but if you haven't needed it or used it or wanted it or searched for it in quite a while, it's because you don't need or want or use it. Digging in the carpet, there's nothing under there. If you've set it aside for some purpose, and that purpose, that reason has never arisen since, you won't regret letting it go. And one of those things might be stuff that you have decided to donate. You have put it in a bag or a box, maybe it's even in your car, but it's still sitting there 6 months later. I do this all the time, but right now, bring it to the charity shop, get it out of your life. You've already decided you don't need it. It's already been sitting there for a while. It's ready to go. You just need to be ready for it to go. You will feel so much better once that stuff is officially gone, because again, it's just that constant, never-ending to-do item. It's something that is in the back of your mind, nagging away at you. Even if you're not fully conscious of it, fully aware of it all the time, it's still something that you keep telling yourself you need to do. So once it's gone, the relief will be immense. Do remember to check out that video on things that you should never declutter. And let me know, what is something that you have decluttered and you have never looked back since? You want to come up and say goodbye to everyone? There we go, Here's a good girl. I would never declutter you. No, I never declutter you. Oh, you're a silly one. You're silly. You're silly. Until next time, gur míle maith agaibh. Agus feici mé sibh go luath. Slán. Wanna say slán? Say slán? No? No? Okay, time.